Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. My name is Grace. Today is Monday, March 17th. This is going to be the start of a reading vlog. I feel like I'm on the fence with reading vlogs. Personally, I love them. I love a long hour-long video versus watching like a bunch of like 20-30 minute videos because usually I watch YouTube while I'm doing other things. I can see why it's a huge time commitment for both a creator and a watcher, but what can I do? It's just kind of like the direction I want to go in. But first, let me start with two books that I have read over the past few days. I read one book over the weekend and I read the other book towards the end of last week. So let me start off with the book because I just don't have a whole lot to say about it. It is Wives Like Us by Plum Sykes. I read Plum Sykes when I was in high school and I loved it. And I loved her so much. Let me show you the books I have. These are very old and they stay on my shelves. I have this other like pit where I throw books that don't fit here. And every time I reorganize, I've kept them. And it's not like I really remember these books. I just remember enjoying them that much. This one came out in 2004 and this one came out in 2006. At some point when I moved, my books were in boxes. Like this got like trashed. Like I should probably throw this away. But just to show you how much I loved these books. And I started reading this book because I had actually looked up Plum Sykes a few years, like every few years after these books came out, waiting for her next book, and it just like never came. And then I saw Wives Like Us, so I figured it just came out at some point. I didn't even notice it. But as I was reading this book, I'm just like, this is kind of like silly. Like it's too silly for me. But I was thinking like these books came out in the early millennium. At this point, Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton were doing The Simple Life. There was all these reality shows. So it was just like a different time. Like that kind of stuff was fun. Where now we're in a eat the rich type of era, you know? So it's not as fun to read about these like ultra wealthy people that are just crying about problems that aren't real problems, just constantly one-upping themselves and being like, I have to drive a Hyundai instead of like the Porsche I wanted. You know, it was silly. And at some point I was like, why am I spending hours reading this book? But I realized I had gotten hooked because one thing Plum Sykes does, and a lot of people don't realize it when I was reading some of the reviews, her characters aren't meant to be likable. They're kind of unreliable narrators and they're just silly, right? But it's very tongue in cheek. Like you're supposed to understand that you're not rooting for them. But the characters you hate, you really hate, right? So like I really wanted to see how that ended up going. Um, but I started reading Wives Like Us, and the main character that you hear from his POV the most, his name is Ian, and he is the butler to one of the main characters, Tata. And he's very funny, but he is such a stereotypical gay character. I was like, oh, this must have been written like a few years after this, and I just missed it. But then they mentioned like TikTok and COVID, and I was like, oh, and I looked, and it came out in 2024. It just read a whole lot like these books, like just like a different type of era. But you know, like that was kind of like the whole premise of the book. You have these country wives, they have their very rich people problems, and they're out in the country. That's all I can say about that book. It was okay if you like that kind. Like I know my sister will love it. Like I know if I had bought it and I lent it to her, she would read it and tell me it was great. Some people would like that kind of book. The next, I finished the sequel to Killers of a Certain Age, and it is Kills Well with Others. The foreword, I really liked it. It was, to all of you who took these killers to your hearts and wanted to see them kill again, thank you. So in this book, you have a lot of flashbacks to their earlier years of killing. So basically, these characters, I had forgotten this when I mentioned it. Their original purpose was to hunt down Nazis. Hunt down Nazis and their stolen art, like whatever they had, you know, stolen from victims, track them down, kill them, get the art pieces, and give them to the right people, the people that should own them, the families of the victims, yada yada. So the organization they work for is called the Museum, and they were being assassins is called being in acquisitions. You have Provenance, and you have like other departments like that are kind of like cutesy museum names, but there's just a huge, very well funded organization that is their purpose. Once they ran out of Nazis, they started killing like mob bosses, like crime lords, like just anyone that wasn't making it easy for other people. So that was their whole like premise. And in this book, they find out that somebody is targeting them from a very old mission that one of their first missions. So you get flashbacks, and I enjoyed the flashbacks because while some of them tied to the current mission at hand, it also just showed how they have worked together for like decades, and how they're just like sisters. Like they're not similar. They don't get along. Some of them rub each other the wrong way, but they're sisters. Like they are in it like for the long haul. They will kill for each other, like put themselves in dangerous positions to make sure like they stay safe. And they're like 60, 70, I don't know, I think they're 60. But it's just cute to see like old women being murderous. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. And now I don't know what book I'm going to start. Right now I feel like I've seen so many people read really good books and I want to read them all and I just get stuck. That's kind of how I think that's why I read Wives Like Us, because I was just like, I didn't know where to go. When I went to my friend's house a couple of weeks ago, she lent me The Housemaid. She really liked this. She and I are thriller fans. We both like thrillers, but I also want to read The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. And so, yeah, I don't know where I'm going to go with at some point when I go on my lunch. Right now I'm on my first break. I'm going to pick a book and start from there. Somebody else also recommended the Broken Earth trilogy, and I've seen people talk about it, and it's not necessarily something I go into. I think when I read like magic books, like with witchcraft, they're usually standalones. But who knows? Like I may get sucked into it. But yeah, I'm going to go back to work and I will check in later. So today has been a big day if you follow Kira Lewis. I follow her on Instagram. She has been reading the Harry Potter books all year. She does take like breaks in between certain parts, like if they're too heavy or whatever. But there's a cynical side of me that gets annoyed because like I feel like sometimes it is drawn out for engagement, like when we are on a cliffhanger. So last Friday, she had like 30 pages left and then she took a break, and then all weekend she was out and about, and me and my cousin both follow her, and I was like, I wish the people of New York would boo her because she needs to finish these books. But she did finally finish, and I went into her videos a little annoyed that she had left me hanging for like 30 pages all weekend, but she made it up to me with this. I'm reading the Apple Luigi right now. She's just so silly. But it has been nice watching somebody read the Harry Potter books with fresh eyes, because that series was just so much of my childhood. I loved it so much. They came out when I was in middle school. And I remember like I had already started working by the time I think The Order of the Phoenix came out. And I was like, kind of like, I should be old. At this point, like nobody was reading young adult if you weren't a young adult. Like it wasn't a thing. But just feeling like I need to see this through. And it brought me like joy to read that, even though I was like 18 or whatever. And watching somebody read them with a fresh perspective and still get hit at the same points that like I would cry, it would make me cry too. But it is now lunchtime. I need to go heat something up and start my next book. I have like so many library holds as well. I think I'm actually going to start with Funny Story by Emily Henry. You guys know, if you watched like a video or two ago, I read Book Lovers and really loved it. I started reading Happy Place, but like that premise I wasn't into.
I don't know where you are, but you can show me in the home app. Go to the home setting.
Who was talking to you? Anyways, yeah, like the premise of Happy Place, it just wasn't hitting something that I would want to read. So I read like maybe a chapter or two, and just like, I don't know, something about it, like it wasn't for me, and I don't want to force it. I don't want to sour my newfound love for Emily Henry, but Funny Story seems like something that I could enjoy. So I think that's actually what I'm going to start with. It seems like an easy book to ease into the week with. And yeah. All right, it is now lunchtime. I spent some of my lunch like cleaning Iggy's area. Like my living room is just like his area now. Like little by little, like he had a bunch of stuff here, and then I got shelves, and then I ended up moving my stuff out of those shelves and putting his toys there. And that's why I have like that daycare situation going on there. But since he has been in the wheelchair, it's just like this is the easiest place for him to hang out. It is his area. So I just need to get over it. And it is not my living room, it is Iggy's play area. So yeah, it is my lunchtime. I'm going to eat sopita. This got really hot because I was heating it while I was cleaning. I only have like 15 minutes left of my lunch. I just thought it was kind of funny that I mentioned all these books and I'm going to read like none of them because I have all these holds, library holds. So I want to read this before I get a book that I have no set time I have to finish by. So these are my holds on Cloud Library. I mentioned I use Libby and Cloud Library. Cloud Library feels like a hack for my local library because I feel like nobody really uses it. They tend to use Libby more. So usually even like a really popular book will have no wait time on Cloud Library. So my holds, I have Wives Like Us, that book I just finished, so I can return that. I have Sisters of the Lost Nation, both the ebook and the audio. And Ring Shout. I started reading this book on the weekend, but I couldn't get into it. I didn't mention it, but I have an ear infection. So I was just kind of like out of it. I feel like when like an ear infection, because it affects like your senses, it's very like disorienting, even though it's not like a huge thing. And I just like Ring Shell, like I couldn't kind of wrap my head around the fantasy of it. That's why I ended up going with Wives Like Us. But I've heard good things. I do want to read that, and I have like 7 days left on that one. The other books, I have a couple of books by Elisa Friedland. One of them is called Jackpot Summer. I took Anna to the Glendale Mall a few weeks ago, and I almost bought this book, and then I saw that it was like, available in my library, so I just ended up not buying it. But this author looks like she'll have books that I will enjoy. And I have Emily Henry Funny Story. Oh, the other book that I just got yesterday was the audiobook for the 5th season. I bought the ebook, but if I get to a point where I can go back and forth, it might go quicker. But I do have an audiobook I'm currently reading. I'll mention that when I go back to my desk. But I have like a little under 15 minutes to finish reading. So I'm just going to start Funny Story. All right, I have read 1 chapter so far. So just like book lovers, she hooks me in the beginning. It did, like I said, it didn't happen for Happy Place. But this one, like, it's just, she does a good self-deprecating character. A lot of times when authors try to do that, it doesn't come across as sincere. It's just kind of like, okay, sure. But our main character, what is her name? I don't remember her name. Daphne. She is telling us about how her now ex-fiance used to have the perfect story of how they first met and how cute it was. Well, he would tell it cute, but when she's telling us it wasn't that cute. He is just a very good storyteller, and she is not. And she's just like, but now it doesn't really matter because it's kind of just a small chapter. I used to be the main, like, the leading lady, and how I was cast in that role, like, just kind of I accidentally ran into a trash can and he was there and he thought it was cute. She's like, but now I am the woman he almost accidentally married instead of his true love. And she's explaining to us that her ex-fiance, Peter, had this best friend, Petra, his whole life, ever since like the 3rd grade, where they sat right next to each other. Their names are ridiculously similar. It's like Peter Collins and Petra Comer. So their whole lives, they were just best friends. They were always like, when sometimes you have a best friend and you guys just don't have classes together. They had everything together. Their parents became best friends. They grew up together, and now they are getting married. And her new roommate, Miles, is blasting All by Myself, and she knocks on his door and he is watching Bridget Jones's Diary. Turns out he is Petra's ex-fiance. So somehow Peter and Petra decided, after being engaged to other people, that they were actually meant to be together, and called off their respective engagements, and that forced our main character Daphne to live with Petra's like ex-fiance because they just were short on options. But their interactions are really funny. Like she does good dialogue. I'll give her that. But I need to get back to work, and I'll pick this up later. All right, I am on my last break of the day, and I'm going to use this time to talk about the audiobook that I'm currently listening to. I typically listen to audiobooks when I'm driving. Other times, like, I just don't really focus. But I am listening to Cher, the memoir, and this is part 1. The second part will be released in November of this year, and I am very excited. So far I've listened to almost 21 hours, and I have almost 8 hours left. It has been really, really good. She has led an interesting life, and I've always liked Cher, her music, and I've watched her movies, but not so much like her personal life. And I wonder, because I know she was close to her mom, she used to take her to award shows and stuff, and her mom passed away a year or two ago. I forgot the exact year of her death, but I feel like maybe she held off on writing this memoir until her mother passed, because there are things in there that I feel like her mother would be embarrassed to revisit now. And she was just able to tell her story more authentically, like if she had waited, until her mom passed. Because there's a lot of things like, because I'm in the part where she just met Sonny. So she is like 17 years old. And there was a rough period between, like, as she's growing up, like 16, 17, where her mom's boyfriends were kind of looking at Cher like they wanted to date her. And it just became like a weird situation between her mom and, just like, it was a weird situation for her to be in. She got kicked out a couple of times. And, yeah, growing up, as a child, she had a very rough upbringing, very poor. They were just living in and out of houses, like very unstable. And her mom treated her like, because Cher was the oldest, she treated her like a partner. Like she would look at Cher like, what are we going to do? And, Cher couldn't really do anything. But also what's made it interesting is it's very like highs and lows. So for the longest time, they were like living in poverty. And Cher's mom she dated or married a couple of very well-off people, because she wasn't happy with them. They ended up going back to like living in poverty or living paycheck to paycheck and like struggling. But I am at a point where Cher has met Sonny, and it's like they're not quite in a relationship yet, because Sonny knows that Cher is too young, but he doesn't realize how young she is. But like Cher has just kind of grown up before it was time for her to grow up. So she is like an adult in a teenager's body, and she wants to be an actress. She wants to be a singer. She wants to just be in the business. So that is also why she's keeping her age a secret. But yeah, I am really enjoying it. And it's like I've said this about celebrity memoirs before, it's always exciting to be hearing the story before their big break, like knowing that she's going to win all these awards, that she's going to be like a successful celebrity like her entire life up until now. She's still huge. And knowing and like reading about her story before she's hit it and just knowing it's around the corner is always really exciting. Yeah, it is like 2 p.m. right now. My kids are going to be home soon. Anna's getting me Starbucks because she bothers me for Starbucks almost every day. But I was like, yeah, you know what? Why not? But it is early release all week because it's parent-teacher conferences. But my little A+ student doesn't need any. But yeah, I might listen to Cher right now. I have messed up my YouTube algorithm. It is like all political news right now. And like I've said it before, like I am very pro-Democrats. I am on the liberal side of things. And I see all these videos that have like very attention-grabbing headlines, and it's like things that I want to believe in, but it's very like exaggerated. Which is like, I know we need good news, but I'm also like tired of the clickbait. You know what I mean? So somehow I need to reset my algorithm and just stop watching that stuff. But it's like an uphill battle resetting your algorithm once you've messed it up.
A couple of suitcases and wearing clothes we thought were fabulous, Sonny and I, accompanied by sister G, Charlie, and Brian, flew to London in August 1965. We gave ourselves 2 weeks to try to make it there. If it didn't work out, we'd fly home, broke and done. For the journey, Sonny dressed like Tom Jones in a shirt with ruffled sleeves and his trademark fur vest. I wore my personally designed salute to the American flag, a pair of red, white, and blue horizontal striped bell-bottoms in a loose knit material.
All right, I have been running errands since I got off of work. I had to do some like clothing returns, and I had to do my library returns. So I had 3 books. I only read one. I only read Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo. Didn't get to the Betty White book, and I didn't get to I think it was like a Victorian mystery. But yeah, right now I'm going to go pick up Chinese food and then go home and finish reading, what is it? Funny Story. All right, it is now Wednesday. Yesterday, I didn't record anything. I didn't read anything. I didn't feel good. I had like kind of a headache, but I knew it was going to turn into a migraine. And sure enough, all night I was up. Every time I woke up, I had a migraine. I took a shower in the middle of the night. I was getting ice packs every 2 hours. Luckily, kind of, I had today off because Iggy has an appointment like in the middle of the day. And it was like, I just know it would have been hard to work with that deadline and then being like, oh, I have to, get him ready, blah, blah, blah. So I just took the day off. We have to go to CHLA for his follow up. And I was kind of on the fence with taking him to Universal, either before or after. But I don't think we're going to make it before, and I don't want to be just like looking at the time. So it'll be something I decide to do afterwards because it is in LA. Universal Studios is in Hollywood, so it's like right there. I don't know if we should get the hell out as soon as we can once the appointment is over because of LA traffic, or if we should just say frick it and just head to the park. He does right now. Transformers is under construction, so we're not going to go downstairs. We just stay in the upper lot. But I don't know. So it is about 9 o'clock right now. I want to read a little bit more of Funny Story. I did read a little bit more Monday. One thing that hit me kind of hard because like it's sort of like Book Lovers where you have this ridiculous situation that's like it's not necessarily realistic, but there are very real moments that pull the heartstrings, like our main character Daphne was explaining her upbringing. She grew up with a single mom who did everything and they were moving all the time because her mother, she was a single mom. She had to chase promotions. She had to put her work because that's like the safety of her and her daughter. So she moved a lot based on her work. And so she and her daughter, Daphne, became a minimalist because they were always packing up. And Daphne really took it to heart and she just took that into adulthood. She never really bought more than she needed, had a very like a life that she can pack up and move quickly. But with this guy who is like the perfect guy on paper, like he's very charming. He always says the right thing. He comes from a good family. He's just like, he was like, I'll take care of you. Like he's more financially stable. So he tells her like, let's move back to my hometown. And he's like, I'll buy the house, which she was uneasy with because she was like, I'm not in a position to buy a house. And he's like, I'm going to buy the house. And their compromise was like, he'll buy the house. He'll put the mortgage in his name. And, they're at this point, they're engaged. And he's just like, you just furnish it. If that'll make you feel better, that'll make you feel like, whatever, you can buy stuff. And when they moved into the house, what's his name? Peter. He carries her in like across the threshold and he's like, welcome home. And like something in her broke and she's just like, I finally have a home. So she's buying all this stuff. She's buying all this furniture. She's getting really comfortable. And then obviously like we know what happens. Like he ends up telling her like calling off the engagement and she moves in with, well, he's basic. It's like basically like what was that movie called with Julia Roberts, My Best Friend's Wedding, right? He falls in love with his best friend. He realizes that's the woman he wants to be with. Breaks it off with Daphne, and that night, Daphne's ex-fiance comes looking for her, crying, and Daphne realizing like I got to do something. I have to move out because Peter told her like, hey, I'm going to give you a week so you can like move out, and he gives her apartment listings, and he's like making it seem like this big act of grace, or he's just like trying to give her time, but really he and Daphne, since they just figured out they're in love, they're going to go on a romantic getaway. So Daphne uses this time to like, because Miles showed up crying and he's like in the same position that she's in, she's like, let's move in together. So that is why she's in this current situation. And a little bit of their interactions, he's very like their text is funny because he texts very dry with no punctuation. And she's like, I don't even know what the hell he's saying half the time, but he seems more caring. Like she is processing her grief and only her grief. And so is he. He's very brokenhearted, but he does reach out to her like, hey, do you want to watch a movie like every couple weeks? Or he'll be like, hey, I'm going to get food. Do you want me to pick you up something? And she's always like, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. So she rebuffs him, but he extends an olive branch, right? So that is where I'm at in this book. I did get a little farther into the Cher memoir. And all right, technical difficulties. I had to let Luna out. So where was I? The Cher memoir. So one thing that I'm like taking away from it is just how the perspective that Cher has on her life. So Cher is like 60 years old right now, right? She's talking about the time where I'm at, where she was 19. She has had enough time and distance from this point in her life to speak objectively. And she's describing a lot of people's, like in her life, like her mom and Sunny, where the things they did, the things they said weren't necessarily things that those people would necessarily be proud of. That's why I'm like, I feel like maybe this is just speculation, of course, but like I feel like maybe she waited for her mom to pass away where she can just talk about these things honestly without her mom being like, because a lot of parents are like this. Like if you remind them of like something bad they did when you were little, they're just like, oh, I guess I was never a good mom. It's like, no, but this did happen, you know? So right now, I think like she's describing her relationship with Sunny a lot, and it doesn't seem like an ideal relationship. Like if you look at like videos and whatever of like Sunny and Cher back then, you have this very idealized version of this couple, but really Cher was like 19 at this time. She met Sunny when she was, I think, 16, and Sunny was like in his late 20s or like early 30s, and he was just like nice to her, and she was infatuated with him. And then their career took off as like a couple, where Sunny was kind of in this relationship he kind of didn't really want to be in, and a lot of it had to do with like who Sunny was as a person. Like he was just very very like macho Italian guy, and he was very controlling of Cher. And she was just like, she says it very like matter of fact, like I was not who he wanted as a wife, but yet here we were, Sunny and Cher, touring all over. The other thing that kind of stood out to me was just like how different times are for artists. Like back then, your entire career was at the whims of other people, right? Where a lot of artists now, like for better or for worse, because obviously it is like a very oversaturated market right now, but like artists have control of their presence on social media. They can put out videos, they can do things on their own. Where in this time period, in like the late 60s, I'm pretty sure, Cher and Sunny were at the whims of record labels, of like talk show hosts, of like TV producers. So at this time, Cher, like, I guess she never really thought she would be this huge star, because even though her mom was an actress and she was in that world, like a lot of her mom's friends and stuff were directors, actors, actresses, Cher was like an unconventional beauty at this time. She even did this like little photo shoot with Diana Vreeland and this photographer, I forgot his name, where she asked, like, do you think I'll ever be on the cover of Vogue? And he was like, no. Like, you can either be blonde with brown eyes or have dark hair with blue eyes, but you can't have dark hair, dark eyes. Like, you'll never make it. So she's this unconventional beauty. And then her voice isn't typical. Like, she's been told, like, her whole life, like, we don't know where to put you because, like, your voice is too deep for, like, the female, like, you know, like the female parts. And, like, it was just a weird, they didn't know where to place her voice. So she just kind of was like, I'm never going to be like something huge as much as she wanted to be. But so, and Sunny is just very calculating. He's like, if we do this, he's constantly writing music and trying to network and get them on shows. So they became this duo. But it's like the tensions are starting to crack a little bit, because she's realizing, like, you know, Sunny's probably not very happy with her and just kind of stuck with her because they are this like duo. Like, and he would never be anywhere without Cher, so he knows that. But now they're like in this relationship that he doesn't necessarily want to be in. So that is where I'm at with the books that I am reading. I think I'm going to do like a quick little tidy up and then read a little bit more of Funny Story. Yeah, it's 9:35 right now, so I have a little bit of time before we have to go to the hospital. Yeah. All right, it is now Saturday morning. I don't know where I left off. Iggy had his follow-up appointment on Wednesday and decided to do another surgery on Friday. So I was just kind of like trying to catch up with work to prepare for that. Friday we went in. Even though his surgery was like an hour, like I could not focus. Like I was just looking at because they have like a TV where it has like the patient number and where they are and how long they've been in each stage of surgery. So like pre-op, during surgery, and then post-op. So I was just like glued to that. So I could not read. I couldn't do anything. So this morning I was just like, do I even like want to get back into that book? Because I feel like I always do this every time I take like a few days away from a book. I'm like, do I want to go back into that? And I just started reading it while I was blow drying my hair, and I was like, you know what? No, I do like this. So where I left off, Miles and Daphne. I mean, this is one of those things where, like, this is why relationship books or romance books don't click for me personally. Is like, I feel like you can be in a relationship or you can't. It doesn't have to be this big thing. So in this situation, we have our main character, Daphne and Miles. They've been jilted and they like each other. So it's just like, in this situation, why not? Like, it's literally the perfect situation for her to have this relationship where if it goes somewhere great and if it doesn't, also great, because she is in this small town that she loves, but she's only there because her ex-fiance took her there. So she's just like, I really don't want to stay. So it's like, okay, so like, have like, just be in the moment and have this little fling, and if it turns out terribly, like, move to where you want to move. And each chapter is started off like with how many days she has left in the town until she can leave, because like one of the things that she loved when she was a kid was there was like a library readathon, so she wanted to recreate that at her new job. So she is coordinating that. So she's just like, once that's done, I can move out of this town if I want to. But the relationship is progressing. She's starting to make friends. And so she is starting to like it. But it's just like, that's like kind of my thing with relationship books. It's like, it always feels like it makes something more complicated than it has to be. But the relationship is really cute. The dialogue is really good and I am enjoying it. So right now it is like 9:50. I'm probably going to get back into bed and finish reading a little bit. Me and Iggy have been up. Like that schedule, that surgery, we had to be at the hospital at 6 a.m. yesterday. So our schedule was like all messed up. We went to sleep early. We woke up early. But yeah, I'm at this part where Miles took her to like this senior prom. And it's really cute because it's like the town's, it's like a little joke event that they have because it is like mostly the seniors, like senior citizens. And that's where me and Miles like click because he's just like, I'm just really good with the over 70 set. And she was like, I've noticed. Because he gives this explanation where he just loves older people because it's like they've made whatever mistakes they made in their life and they're just comfortable with it at this point and they're just like enjoying life. Which I feel like that's why I like I love the Golden Girls. I love like a lot of senior sleuth, that genre, because it's kind of taken off. So there's just a lot of books. But liked that. And I'm just enjoying it. There is this point where like I remember when I watched this review of somebody else reading this book, they were just like, it's weird that they're in this small town and they don't run into their exes that often. But I feel like it's believable to me. Maybe because I live in a big town where I run into people and sometimes I just don't see them forever, but we live in the same town. Like, it's possible to me. But they do have interactions with their exes and it just always goes very well. And I am excited to see like the wedding. That was the other thing I was thinking about where I'm like, no, like that's kind of the draw in the book where I want to see how the wedding goes because Peter and Petra, after leaving their fiancés, they also invited them to the new wedding. And they both Miles and Daphne were just like, this feels like they just did it because they're used to being liked people. They're used to being the good guys. And this is like the worst thing they've ever done. So they threw that invitation out, not expecting that they would RSVP, and they did. And now they're doing the whole fake dating thing. And also Daphne is seeing that her ex isn't as great as she thought because he takes a lot of shots at Miles that are uncalled for, and he doesn't really know Miles's life. So because Peter comes from like this big happy family, he kind of makes these little remarks about Miles not talking to his family, not really knowing the whole story. But luckily it brings Daphne and Miles closer once he like opens up with that. And yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and get him to bed and finish reading. Well, hopefully I'm like halfway through, but it is going pretty fast. All right, it is now Sunday. I finished Funny Story yesterday on Saturday. I did enjoy it. I feel like Emily Henry books, like I misjudged them. They are good books. Sorry? What did you do? No school. Stay home. Tomorrow's spring break. Anyways, like I think I misjudged them. I thought they were going to be a lot more like fluffy than they were. But they are good books. I think if you're in a reading slump and you just want something short that's not too complicated, they're good. I did strike out, like I said, with Happy Place. Beat it, kid. Anyways, that was Funny Story. What's your name?
E.
You're the cutest.
E.
Who's Mama's teddy bear?
E.
Thank you.
Two.
You ready to go to sleep?
Yes, Mom.
You know, you look a little sleepy. You're sad because of your robot? Me too. I bought Iggy a stupid, ridiculously expensive robot, the Transformer Grimlock, and it didn't work. So we're trying to figure out what's the best course of action, because I don't want to like return it and get another one and have the same problem. So I'm trying to troubleshoot it. But anyways, that was funny story. As for the other audiobook, I still have a ways to go with Cher. I did end up at I was at a Barnes and Noble yesterday, and I looked at the Cher book. The Cher book looks really good. I had a feeling that it would have a lot of really good exclusive pictures in it. Like some of them, I'm sure like they've been published, but these looked like some of them were terrible, like quality, like blurry. Like I think they were from Cher's like personal collection, not from magazines or anything. So I think I do maybe want to buy the Cher book at some point. But yeah, I haven't finished the audiobook. Anyways, that's it. I'll see you in the next one.